Hi, this is Michelle with Michelle Bells Gaming, and welcome to week 1 of the Super Famicom Challenge. Today, I am not on screen because I am attempting to do several things at once, and also I don't have a capture device, so I'm going to have to try and catch the screen while I'm doing this video. However, you'll be happy to know that I have ordered a capture device, and it will be here in 2 days. So hopefully you'll be seeing some HD quality video from some of these games using the XRGB Mini Frame Meister over there and the Super Famicom with RGB output. So it should look great for you guys once that capture device comes in. Until then, we've got this trusty television and also some screen captures that I'll be showing. So today, we're going to talk about 3 different games. We've got the Sailor Moon Another Story RPG, Sailor Moon S Kurukurin puzzle game, and Cho Makaimura, a classic in the world of platforming arcade-style challenges. And this one is a challenge. This is my Halloween pick, which it's so hard that it might end up being not my Halloween pick very soon. I might switch over to Castlevania. But I've done Castlevania, so Cho Makaimura was, or Super Ghouls and Ghosts as it's known in America, was mentioned several times by several people, so I decided that it would be a good place to start with my action game. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something a little bit interesting about this game. Fun fact, I actually bought 2 copies of this game recently, and the reason was because I believed that this particular copy was damaged. But what I have found out is that it was, in fact, not damaged at all. This here is a Super Famicom, which I have modified the case slightly so that American games will fit in it. But what you will need to know about this Super Famicom is that inside it is the one-chip Famicom. This is a particular chip arrangement that is well known as providing the best picture quality. But interestingly enough, it has several glitches on a few games. And one of the games that it has glitches with is Super Ghouls and Ghosts. So I'll go ahead and load that up and let you see what I'm talking about. So you can see the title screen comes up fine. And of course it looks great on here with the RGB output and the upscaler. Scan lines going. Everything looks great. Start the game. And then when you get to the first world, you discover that everything's not quite peachy. As you can see, I'm not supposed to move like that. And when I jump, it gets worse. And then when I double jump, I turn into a glitchy ball of jumbles. There's a bit of lag, enemies act weird, scrolling's not quite right. And basically, Arthur here looks like, well, he looks like he's being reassembled, he's being disassembled and reassembled by a transporter every 2 seconds. So, that's not good. However, what I have discovered is that if you allow the game to go past the opening world in the demo screen, it will in fact not do it anymore. When it goes to the demo screen, which I'll try and see if it'll show you here. You can see that it's a problem. However, if you allow the game to continue on past this demo screen and into the demo screen for level 2, which it will do shortly, you'll notice a big difference. So here comes our King Arthur again, here to rescue the damsel who realistically is another trope, and some bad guys coming to pop up out of the trees. It's a good looking opening for a, bad trope of a game. But what can you say? Times have changed. So, here we are, again at our loading screen. And in a second, it will load up the demo for stage 2. And now you'll see there's no problem at all. So if I go ahead and hit start and start the game, skip all of that. Now you'll discover that there's no problem at all and everything is working exactly how it should be. So, I had never played this game really before. I'd given it a little bit of a mess with, but I wasn't really into it. I hadn't played it for more than about 15 minutes ever. And while I haven't been able to beat the first level yet, I have decided something very, very interesting. And that's that all daggers need to have lasers on them. What do you ask? Is it dagger lasers? Well, or rather laser daggers, I think is the better way of saying it. Well, I will attempt to show you if I can. Let me jump over that. If I can... Oh, and I got hit. Well, basically, there is a... Gonna not get hit by that guy. These are the daggers here. And they're pretty good. But if you're actually good at the game, which I am not, but if you are, there's a treasure chest that will pop up if you come back over here. Somehow. I think it's there. Could have swore it was there. There it is. Okay. Now, I did not get the power up that gives you the super armor. But if I were to get the super armor, what you would discover is that my daggers shoot laser beams before the dagger comes out, which is incredibly impressive, and I want that to be a real thing because you never know when you might get attacked on the subway or molested in a train station like me, something like that. Life in Japan is strange sometimes. Moving on. The next game I want to talk about is this Sailor Moon puzzle game. Now this game I have actually beaten. It's not a particularly hard game. It's not a particularly long game, although it sometimes can be a little bit challenging. Perhaps frustrating is the better word. Enemies seem to get a lot better abilities than you do sometimes. But the idea of this game is very simple. You pick a character. I will pick Uranus. And then you start up your little puzzle mode. Now, the goal of this puzzle mode, after we get through our little opening there, is to get all three of the mythical there's three treasures, right, that are used in Sailor Moon S to summon the Messiah, and the three talismans is what I was trying to say. Sorry. And your goal is to make all three of them appear and get them to come down to the bottom of your screen. Now, you can break combinations of, I think it's 3 or more hearts that are together. And then there are also these special items that you can use where you hit the item and then one of the colored hearts and it will do something. So as you can see here, some of your hearts will remain covered. And then there's a power-up that you can get that will allow your hearts to get uncovered. Or you can just climb over them with your little Luna Pea ball. This isn't a puzzle game that you can lose by, getting overstacked or anything like that. The only way you can really lose is by being slower. Here's one of the talismans. If I break that, the talisman now goes down here. There are also special moves that you can use, and so on. And yes, you can break 2. Oops. It seems like a pretty simple game, although the more you get into it, the more complex it gets, as it gives you new power-ups and abilities and so on. and you can do special moves and things like that. For example, there are little enemy seeds that will appear, and those seeds will turn into bad guys, and if one of your talisman touches that seed, the talisman will disappear and you have to make it appear again. The way to get rid of those bad guys is to use one of your special attacks, which you have to find the item for that. So if you don't have can't make the item appear, then you can't get rid of those. So sometimes it's just a matter of A, knowing how to make things fall the way you want to, and B, making sure that you use items and things in the correct order. It's pretty fun. After you beat it, it allows you to unlock a mode where you can play as Super Sailor Moon, and if you beat that, you get the better ending, and you get to play as Sailor Saturn. If you beat that, then you've technically completely beaten the game. As you can see there, my talisman just disappeared because I haven't been breaking enough blocks, and a new row appeared. So now it's going to take it a little bit longer to reappear. However, I'm far ahead of Sailor Moon. So here's an item that if I use it, it will break all blocks of a certain color. This can be very handy, especially when you've got one block that's just there, like this purple one here, that's just nagging you because you can't get rid of it. You can use that block to just get rid of it kind of arbitrarily. So here is my other talisman. I'm going to go ahead and see if and it disappeared again. Well, I was going to see if I could win this battle for you to show you, but the talisman decided to be stupid. Or rather, I decided to be stupid and not move fast enough. Things fall in combos, and that can be interesting. Where it gets annoying is when you have super moves and things the enemies use against you to do things that will cover your whole screen, or they'll actually put giant sprites of themselves on the screen so that you can't see what you're doing, or they'll make extra enemies appear, and so on. It can be very annoying, very, very difficult to play the game, especially when you're being timed, basically, because you're playing against the other players and their speed. So here I have a problem. Well, I don't anymore. But if I did have a problem, I would use one of those little jewels to get rid of it. There we go. And now I have all three talismans. And I win. It was fun. It was short. It has multiplayer. So if you ever want to get some friends around, it's not a terrible game to play, although there are better Sailor Moon games to play multiplayer. This one, however, is not multiplayer, but I will show it to you. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I have with it. So this is the Sailor Moon RPG, and I'm actually playing a translation of the game, which someone had put onto an actual cartridge. When I moved to Japan, I bought the original and then switched out the cartridges from the cases so that I now have the English version inside the Japanese case. I'm playing through this game, and it's pretty good. It's a little bit easy. It can get easy to be over-leveled. First thing I will say is the music in this area is really, really annoying. So I've done the first sort of prologue areas, the introduction to the story. Now I'm in a part where I've got to go on an item fetch quest with each of the 5 main sailors. Well, 4 of them, actually. Sailor Moon herself stayed behind. So each of the 4 of the main sailors, except for Sailor Moon, has to go off to another part of the world and find this crystal thing. There's 4 of them. They've got to find each of them. Right now, I am in a cave underground in Switzerland. This is the battle system here. Because your MP recharges after battles, there's really no point in not just spamming attacks. So during every random battle, I'm using attack all spells with basically no problems because, as you can see, the EP comes back. HP does not. However, items to restore it are not usually that hard to find. So you're really not in a whole lot of danger in this game unless you're under leveled. which can happen, but it's somewhat rare. The battle music is not bad. What is, however, really bad is the music outside of this cave, which I will attempt to show you now. I said this music wasn't very good, but just wait until you hear the music outside of the cave, assuming I can get to it. One of the problems that I have with this translation, and it's not really a problem with the game, it is only a problem with the translation itself. This is actually a very old translation. It's one of the very first games that was ever fan translated. Okay, so here's the music I was telling you about. That drone is really annoying. That organ is just awful. And it just kind of repeats. And there's this bass that's kind of trying to be melancholy, but it sounds a little too thick. Along with that organ that just keeps on going and going and going. So let's go back in here. So anyway, one of the things that I have a real problem with in this translation is that there are certain words that were in Japanese that were sort of plot items or plot-related words that they left untranslated. However, they did change them into English letters, which is kind of pointless because they don't make any sense. In here, you won't see any, perhaps, but in the rare items you might see here. Here we go. Here is the Kage Zoisite, a stone from Zoisite's cruel heart. Also jadeite, nephrite, and kunzite, right? Kage means darkness, okay? But instead of saying dark stone, they said Kage stone. But when they introduced the stone to you in the plot, the translators put in a note in parentheses that said Kage means darkness, instead of just translating it as dark. And that's really offensive to do in a video game. If you're going to be translating a game, you need to translate the game. You don't leave certain words in Japanese just because they think they sound cool, and then put a note beside them saying what they actually mean in English. And there's no point for it. Kage can very easily be written as dark with the exact same number of letters. Also, there is the Barazuisho, which directly translates as rose crystal. The game actually tells you that it translates as rose crystal, and then continues to call it the Barazuisho for the rest of the game. Same thing with the Ginzuisho, which also means silver crystal. It's in the original versions of the anime as silver crystal. It's been translated in every single translation of Sailor Moon as silver crystal, and yet in this game they decided to leave it as Ginzuisho for no apparent reason. And this really bothers me. I don't understand why you would do it. They clearly had a lot of room to change the text around because they were able to fit a good chunk of really long words into the story and the dialogue boxes, which is really rare for games of this time period. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But overall, this is a pretty fun game, and I'm getting through it quickly. So far, in the challenge, I have beaten one game. One game I have not gotten past the first level, and this one I am starting to make a fairly decent amount of progress. That is your update for week 1, and I will see you next time.